You are not the first human species to walk this earth. You are the only one left. For most of the last few million years, that wasn't true. Multiple human species shared the same rivers, the same forests, the same skies. Then, one by one, they vanished. And the answer to why is far stranger than you were taught in school. You probably learned it happened because your ancestors were smarter, faster, better tool makers. A simple story of triumph. One species outthinking all the others until only the winner remained. But the real answer is far stranger. It has less to do with brain power and more to do with something you feel every single day without realizing it. Loneliness, isolation, the size of your social circle. 200,000 years ago, the Earth was crowded with humans who were not you. Not your species, but close. Close enough to make tools. Close enough to bury their dead. Close enough, in some cases, to fall in love with your ancestors and have children with them. There was Homo erectus, wandering across Asia for almost 2 million years, the longest-running human species in history. There was Homo neanderthalensis, thick-boned and cold-adapted, hunting mammoths across Ice Age Europe. There was a mysterious group called the Denisovans, known mostly from a single finger bone found in a Siberian cave. There was Homo floresiensis, a tiny human standing barely 3 feet tall, discovered on a remote Indonesian island and nicknamed the Hobbit. And there was you, Homo sapiens, the newcomer. By 40,000 years ago, almost all of them were gone. What happened? For decades, the assumption was simple. Modern humans arrived, and modern humans were better. Better brains, better spears, better fire. The strong survived. The weak did not. End of story. But when researchers actually dug into the evidence, the story fell apart. Take Neanderthals. For 100 years, popular imagination painted them as dim-witted brutes, hunched over and grunting, no match for elegant, clever sapiens. Then the science caught up. Neanderthals made complex stone tools. They controlled fire. They buried their dead with what looks like ritual care. In 2018, researchers led by Dirk Hoffman published evidence that Neanderthals painted on cave walls in Spain. More than 64,000 years ago. Tens of thousands of years before modern humans ever set foot in Europe. That is not the work of a lesser mind. That is art. So if they weren't stupid, why did they disappear? Here is where the story gets strange. It might not be about intelligence at all. It might be about numbers. Genetic studies have repeatedly found something odd buried in Neanderthal DNA. Their genetic diversity was shockingly low. A 2014 study led by geneticist Kay Proofer, analyzing a Neanderthal genome from a Siberian cave, found signs of long-term inbreeding, small isolated groups, and populations that likely never grew very large. Best estimates suggest the entire Neanderthal population across all of Europe and Asia may have hovered somewhere between 10,000 and 70,000 individuals total for an entire species spread across an entire continent. Compare that to modern humans expanding out of Africa around the same time. Sapiens weren't necessarily smarter, but they appear to have been more connected. Archaeological sites show sapiens trading materials across hundreds of miles. Obsidian and shells moving between groups who had never met each other directly. That kind of network meant that if one group struggled, ideas, tools, and even mates could flow in from somewhere else. Neanderthal groups, by contrast, look more isolated, more alone. When something went wrong, there may have been no one nearby to help. Think about what that means. It wasn't a war of extinction. It was something quieter, smaller populations, fewer new ideas circulating, less genetic diversity to weather a bad season, a harsh winter, a disease, over centuries, not with a single conquering blow, but with a slow demographic squeeze. And then there is the twist almost nobody expects. Neanderthals did not simply vanish. They merged. In 2010, a team led by geneticist Svante Pääbo, who would later win the Nobel Prize for this work, sequenced the first full Neanderthal genome and found something remarkable. Modern humans with ancestry outside Africa carry Neanderthal DNA. Not a lot. Usually between 1 and 2%. But it's there, in your genes, right now. If your ancestors came from outside Africa, that DNA affects things like your immune system, your skin, even how you respond to certain diseases today. So when you ask what happened to the Neanderthals, part of the honest answer is this: they became part of you. The Denisovans tell an even stranger version of the same story. Scientists don't have a skull. They don't have a full skeleton. Almost everything known about this entire human species comes from a few teeth and a pinky bone fragment found in Denisova cave in Siberia. And yet their DNA lives on powerfully in living populations today. People from Melanesia, particularly in Papua New Guinea, carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. One particular Denisovan gene, discovered by researchers studying Tibetan populations, helps modern Tibetans survive at extreme high altitude, where oxygen is thin and most human bodies struggle. A species known almost entirely from a finger bone gave living humans today the tools to breathe on top of the world. Homo floresiensis offers a different kind of ending. No merger, no lingering DNA passed down to you. This tiny human species lived in isolation on the island of Flores, likely for tens of thousands of years, evolving to a smaller size the way isolated island species often do. Researchers led by paleoanthropologist Peter Brown, who helped identify the species in 2004, found evidence they were still present as recently as around 50,000 years ago. Their disappearance overlaps suspiciously with the arrival of modern humans in the region, though scientists still debate whether direct competition, volcanic activity, or a shrinking habitat played the larger role. And Homo erectus, the longest surviving human species in history, endured for close to 2 million years, adapting again and again as environments shifted around them. Their story likely ended through a slow accumulation of pressures, shrinking habitats, climate swings during the Pleistocene, and eventually encountering a newer, more networked human species expanding into their territory. Notice the pattern across every one of these species. It is rarely one dramatic event. It is almost never a war. It is climate stress layered onto small, isolated populations, layered onto a new competitor arriving with wider social networks and more flexible tools. Extinction, most of the time, does not look like a battle. It looks like a slow erosion, which brings you back to today. You live in a world sapiens built partly by surviving, and partly by connecting. Every trade route your ancestors carved out, every stranger they exchanged tools and stories with, every distant relative who brought a new idea into a small, isolated group, all of it mattered. Your species didn't just outlast the others, it out-networked them, and that Neanderthal DNA sitting quietly in your genome, if you carry it, isn't a relic of some vanished, defeated species. It's evidence that extinction and survival were never as separate as they seemed. The Neanderthals didn't lose to you. In some very real biological sense, they joined you. So the next time you feel the pull to reach out to someone, to call a friend, to not go through something alone, remember that connection is not a modern convenience. It is one of the oldest survival tools your species has ever had. It may be the very reason you exist to feel that pull at all. You are not the first human species to walk this earth. You are simply the one who never stopped reaching for others.